Hello, people. I told you we were going to talk about Roswell, and we are. I have the Roswell Bible here. Let me show you. As you can see, this is the Roswell Bible. I call it the Roswell Bible. It's quite thick. I have radar logs, I have pictures, interviews, all kind of good stuff in there, which I'm going to share with you. But let's go back. The ones who have seen my first introductory, you know, I was adopted and raised by the Colemans, who were a host family. But during the time as I was growing up, there was times that my father would come visit me. My father would physically take me. And the Colemans witnessed this on numerous accounts. And I'll tell you about my father as we go along. But the Colemans had trouble with this, and they were assured by the people that were watching me and studying me and trying to enlighten me, but I think it was just the other way around. I was actually enlightening them. Many times they would put me to bed at night, and I physically know, just as I know right now that I'm wearing glasses, I would see the blue light, or I would hear a voice. Was I sleeping? Was it just a childhood fantasy dream? Or no, I would hear a voice, either to prepare, they're coming, or they're here, or to get up out of my bed and go in the backyard. Whereas most of the time it was easier to take me out of the backyard than from the bedroom. I know most of you people have heard the reports of people floating out the windows or floating through walls and everything. That's a fact. We have technology that's beyond anybody's scope of understanding. And I won't get into the physics or the terminologies or anything because, let's just be honest, it is quite complicated. It's quite unique and it's quite real. But my father would come get me, and it was just to make sure that I was progressing as I was programmed to be, as I was created to be. I was in a certain process of health and growth, and I generally had the free will of the ship. And when I say free will, I got to see the inside the ship. I knew how it worked. I knew how they went from point A to point B, and it's because I knew these things upon arrival. And when I say arrival, my birth mother, who gave birth to me in 1953, knew something strange had happened to her. And as I showed you in that birth record, she gave me out of the family Bible that she had kept all those years. And I was 30 years of age when I got to meet my biological mother for the very first time. And she told me many things that she had kept secret for a number of years. She didn't understand it. She didn't know why it happened and who was responsible for it happening. But she never said it was a bad experience. She just knew that, well, she didn't have me to raise. And maybe there was a process behind that. But when I would be taken out of my bedroom, I would be gone for several hours. And as I told you what it was, to make sure that I was progressing, I was growing, I was still healthy. There was no abnormalities or anything like that. And my father would talk to me, and he would talk to me in our language, which most would not understand, but it's the Palladian dialect. I still talk it today. I was talking it then. It's like putting on your shoes. Once you learn how to put your shoes on and tie them, well, you never forget these things. I still talk today. I'll give you an example. And what I just said is our language. It's Palladian. And I just said to you, everyone that's watching this, may you get a heart-formed blessing from what you're going to witness and learn. Amen. Many people in my neighborhood there in Lakeland, Florida, when all this was happening as a child, were witnessing this. They were seeing the strange blue lights. They were seeing the strange white lights that would sometime mysteriously appear over our house and then disappear. The world is full of frontier Freds and skeptics and everybody else in between that doesn't really matter. And when I say that, the skeptics are always going to be there. Hell, there were skeptics in the time my brother walked here. And I'll tell you more about my brothers as we go along. That's within the Roswell. He's one of the twins. But all this stuff was verifiable. All this stuff, and when I came to the agency, I was allowed to see, thanks to a man named Giles Hamilton. I called him my Earth Father. He was the father that I desperately, as a child, wished I had had. Mr. Coleman was not a bad man. He was a very strict man, but he did not understand things. The only thing he knew was he had been hired to raise this little tiny child and make sure he gets what he needs as a normal human being. I look just like you. I have lived just like most people would. But I like to go one step further. I don't look like you. You actually look like me. Because, after all, what I found out, and it's in the Bible, by the way, the human race was seeded here. People don't realize, but they're an extension of the Pleiadian culture. You are an extension of creation. It's in the Bible again. I won't go too much into the Bible because a lot of people, well, I don't believe the Bible. The Bible's got so many inconsistencies. But I will tell you one thing that's in the Bible, and you can look it up and just pay close attention to the words, and you'll understand what I'm saying. In Genesis, first Genesis, verses 26 and 27, there's two key words in there that people just overlook. It says, let us make man in our image. Let us make man in our image. Well, who is us and our? Well, that just goes back again to the creation story. And I'll give you a couple of examples. When I say Adam, I'm not talking about somebody named Adam. I'm talking about the human species. The very word Adam means human. Human. It is Sumerian, Pleiadian. The Sumerians were the first and most advanced civilization that mankind has ever known, including today. The Sumerians were an extension of the Pleiades people. They were the Adam. And now that I've got that out, I'm going to try to keep the Bible out of a lot of things. But, sometimes if I'm going to tell this is disclosure. If I'm going to tell this in factuality, there will be times I have to use the Bible. So just bear with me. But the ministers as a child knew who I was. The doctors who were watching and studying me and asking me questions knew who I was. The Colemans who raised me, they just were told that this is a very unique child you've been blessed to raise, and we will compensate you very greatly for your time and effort. And they were. I lived in a very nice home in Lakeland. The Colemans drew very nice cars. What Mr. Coleman did for a living, to this day, I don't know, and it's irrelevant. I knew my host mother, my adopted mother. She was a stay-home housewife, and we did a lot of things together as a child. She would take me to the park. I got to see the trains, and there was people she knew that, well, I would get to know. People in the neighborhood who knew me and thought that I was a quiet child, and very rarely did I get mischief or anything, get into trouble. Although I did at times, but they were minute things. I mean, if you want to say minute, maybe going to the orange grove and have a rotten orange fight. That was about as control of my mischief But the Colemans raised me very good. They gave me everything that a normal child should under the circumstances. The doctors would ask me a lot of questions sometime. They would bring me little gifts. The ministers would ask me questions or give me study things like biblical studies and stuff. And I mean, I had all kind of denominations: the Baptists, the Catholics, Jewish, the Mormons, Presbyterians were coming to see me. Well, maybe not what was the Presbyterians. No, I'll take that back. I don't think I ever had a Presbyterian minister come see me, but I did have a Lutheran minister. But in them days, I didn't know the difference between Lutheran and Jehovah's Witness. So I just know these guys were from the clergy. And the Catholic Church especially, because they were the first that gave me a dictionary. My first book I ever got, I was 2 years old. Now, who gives a 2-year-old a brand new dictionary? I still have that dictionary, by the way. It was a Webster. And I learned a lot of my understandings of human technology and terminology through that dictionary. I could tell you what a hippopotamus was, define words, and I could read it. And it didn't take me very long. It was like, again, putting them shoes on. You just never forget these things. But I promised you that we would start with the Roswell crash, and we are. It's a quite lengthy one, but I'm not going to leave nothing out. This is disclosure, and I'm going to give you dates, times, and locations, and people that knew things, yet they kept their mouth shut. I'll tell you what was involved, why it was involved, why it happened, and where the finality of the Roswell incident ended up. Oh, it didn't end up in the deserts of Roswell, New Mexico. No. Far from Roswell, New Mexico. But this Roswell Bible I have right here, I have the flight logs, I have the people involved, and I actually got to sit with many of these people that witnessed that night on 1947. And I'm very particular about dates. It was July 2nd, 1947, that the Roswell crash took place. And it's not what the alleged experts say, because they don't know. They haven't did the track work. They haven't went out there and talked with all the individuals that were still alive. No, they just picked and choose those who thought they knew. I'm going to show you those who did know. And when I get done, now you will know. So on that, we will move now to part number 2, point A, I guess, the Roswell crash, July 2nd, 1947. Buckle up, people. We are getting ready to go for a ride on that. Bye.